everybody, welcome to another episode of Pinpoint Unfiltered. I'm Rachel, and there's no Josh today. But I do have lovely guests, Al and Joe, for round 2 of live agent training. What's up, guys?
Hey, Rachel, Joe. It's good to see everybody.
Good to see you guys. I'm so excited to do this. It's the last time we did behind the scenes of how do we live train somebody, a new agent. And today we're going to be talking about, Al, please remind me, sales tactics, how to deal with clients, something about
Client
objections, follow-ups. Yeah, cool. Okay, so Joe, what do you want us to start with? This is for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, why don't we just go in order? Start with sales tactics.
Okay. Al, you.
Right. So it all starts with like any sales, what does somebody need? Like when somebody reaches out to you, they have a need and they have a particular need. Like I've said this before, when a client calls you, they're calling about a particular apartment, right? That's what they want. But it's not what they really want. They want an apartment, not that particular apartment. So the sooner you can get them talking about their needs in the context of that particular apartment, the better off you are, because now it's just about listening. It's listening to hear what they want and how you best can help them. And it's not helping them get into this particular apartment. It's, I can help you with any apartment you want. Let me help you. So, getting them to open up about what their needs and expectations really are is the key for you being a successful agent and doing right by them. So then they say, wow, Joe is a fantastic realtor and I want to recommend him highly to all my friends.
Yeah, and I think that the quickest, the quickest way to do that is to gain their trust. And that's easier said than done. How do you gain their trust? And I think everybody does it a little bit different way, but it's kind of like what Al, you said before we hopped on. You tell them, hey, do you want to see this apartment at night or do you want to see it in the day? Right? Like there's a big difference if you really care about natural light and giving them, insight and showing your expertise is a way to get them to start trusting you. Sometimes it's just about, being a little bit vulnerable and in whatever sense that might be. Doesn't mean share your feelings. But a way to get clients who don't know you to trust you and to want to seek your advice and to heed your advice, because clients think they know everything, right? As a renter in New York, you think you know everything about everything there is to know. So we're not here to argue with them. They're seeking our expertise, but we need them to be susceptible to hearing it.
Yeah, I think that's, we need to listen, but it's also, as Rachel said, if they feel comfortable with us, and it's that level of trust, but they're picking up on things like, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. And as Rachel said, before we were recording, I was talking about a client who said, hey, I can see something at 6:30 at night. And it never occurred to them that it would be dark out. Like, that's fine. But just by offering, like, there's a really nice view out of this apartment and you're not going to see it because it's dark. How important is natural light to you? It just makes them go, oh, wait a minute. This person has said something different. They're not just hustling me to get me into the apartment. They're actually suggesting, how about we wait 12 hours if that is important to you, but I'll 100% meet you tonight. And they learn. And then they're like, oh my God, wow, this is across the street from my favorite restaurant. And when I say, oh, I like that restaurant too, do you remember the restaurant that used to be in that space? I loved that one. And now they know, oh, you've been around for a while, long time. You've been around for a while. Like there's a commonality, there's a connection where now you're not talking about the apartment itself, but you're talking about everything else, and that there's a history and experience, and it's all the unspoken, I hate saying it's a soft sell, because at the end of the day, you're trying to earn a commission. So it is a sales um, pitch. It's trying to create that communication with them where now they're open to telling you really what they need, and they're not filtering because they view you as adversarial.
In terms of trust building, are there any other questions that you have as go-tos besides the app, just what everyone asks, like how many bedrooms, bathrooms, what's your budget, what area are you looking at? Like, are there any questions that would get an answer that you think would help to build trust and relatability?
Well, if you listen to what they say, like here's a great example. Somebody talks about, I have a 4-month old. Oh, great, you have a 4-month old. So, now I'm pretty sure you don't want to walk up because children come with so much paraphernalia. But are you open to one flight? Like again, you're getting information about the apartment, but you're letting them know that I understand your situation.
How that
If they
translates.
mention something, take what they've mentioned and use that to get even more information about their needs.
Mhm. Yeah, same
But
thing, like
they're also getting the fact that you're listening.
right, and you're understanding their situation. So, the same example is they have a dog, right? Okay, do you want to be near a park? Like any park, or do you want to be near a dog park? And that also helps you narrow down like what neighborhoods, right? What parts of neighborhoods they want to be in. Um, and you'll understand if it's important to them or not. Most dog people would want to be near a park, but not all. Some are like, no, my dog stays inside, kind of thing, right? But you are the point is not necessarily the dog, but the they're sharing something about them, and you're ingesting that information and like reflecting back how it's relevant to how you're going to help them.
So you're just branching off of what comes up naturally. Yeah.
Yeah. Um I mean, this is sales, right? At the end of the day, this is sales. Sales is sales is sales is sales. And sales is psychology, right? It's really how do you understand the person that you're working with, your client, um, how you can communicate, and how you're able to get them to understand what it is that you're trying to sell without it being salesy, right? Um, and I think in any industry, right, it's a little bit of, I mean, psychology is manipulation in a certain sense, right? Like you're not trying to manipulate them for your gain. You're just trying to manipulate their thinking. So because this is not their expertise, right? Um, unless we're talking about car sales, in which case don't let them manipulate you. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is listening and being able to communicate effectively. Um, and that will take you very far. Yeah. Is there anything
And that's the
that
trust. The
yeah.
trust comes from, oh, I mean, the last time we talked simply about do they like you as a person? Like the choice of do I want to hang out? If I'm going to choose to spend time with a broker, do I like them? I mean,
Mhm,
we've talked about the case where like, I would get calls being like, "Hey, I just spent 2 hours with somebody and my God, never again. What else do you have?" Or I saw this apartment that I like and can you help me get it? Like because they just don't like somebody. But that's, that's instinct. But the more then you take it to the next level where it's like, I'm listening to you. Listen, everyone wants somebody to listen to them, right? As human beings, like, are you listening to me? Yeah. And so if you can demonstrate that you have, even simply regurgitating the information that they have a child or a dog or the schools, all that stuff. Oh, you heard what I said, and it's not just here's this apartment I want you to see.
mhm,
No, you told me, I've used it before, the blue ceiling thing.
mhm,
You told me that you will never rent an apartment with a blue ceiling. And I told you if I ever show you an apartment with a blue ceiling, run away. But sometimes you call and you say, listen, I found a perfect apartment, checks every box, but it has that blue ceiling issue you don't want. I still think you should see it because these other things you're communicating with them, telling them like, I understand your needs and I understand your wants and your wishes, but I'm still trying to find the solution to your housing needs. So then they trust you. And I've had clients be like, I never would have thought about looking here. But I mean, a great example of that, getting the phone call for somebody they wanted a 2-bedroom on the Upper West Side. And I've been looking forever and I can't find it. And like, well, what's the issue? If you've been looking for 2 whole cycles, 2 months, and you're not finding what you want, what is the issue? And when you find the issue and think, you know what? Have you ever thought about looking in West Harlem in the West 130s, the West 140s? Because I think you can see the apartment you're talking about. And now you gain their trust and say, "Let's just come up and look." Because like, I'll show you one apartment. And if you don't like that one apartment, we never need to look again. But you're going to find the apartment you want. They were willing to do that. And they came up and they rented an apartment in a building. And I put 2 more of their friends in the same building later because they were just willing to take that leap. And it's all because of the trust factor.
So Al,
But you need to be able to deliver on your promises.
I'm gonna take that as a perfect segue. I'm gonna ask a question, and it's gonna go right into what we're talking about, objections. So, what if you propose that to a client and they say no? I have no interest. I'm not going to look at that apartment. How
Hell
would you
no.
overcome that? Yeah. What would you do?
No Harlem.
Yeah.
Yeah. How would you overcome that, Joe?
Okay. Yeah.
I would ask them what the reason they're opposed to a specific neighborhood is.
And if they just said it's just a personal preference, I want to stay below 96.
I'd say, well, then you're going to be homeless.
That's not the best response.
No, I'm just kidding.
You're gonna be homeless.
Well, okay. So I want you to understand that. Great. So we're going to have to adjust your expectations a little. I get it. You told me that space was really important. And I'm just suggesting that, we will continue to look in this neighborhood, but I want you to have in the back of your mind that if space continues to be an issue, the answer could be here. Also know that I have the perfect apartment for you right now. I'd love for you to see it. There's no obligation, but like, that's not going to last. So, but know that let's keep looking. However, you've already told me you've been looking for 2 months. You've already told me you've worked with several other brokers who aren't delivering. Where's the problem? The problem is not, the problem is the inventory doesn't exist. The thing you want does not exist at your price point. So are you willing to spend a little more? Because if we can increase the budget, we might be able to get more. I mean, at the end of the day, the fact is more money gets you more stuff. It gets you more square footage. It gets you better quality appliances. It gets you better finishes. It gets you better light. It gets you an elevator. It gets you laundry in the building.
Or a better neighborhood.
You can throw money at anything. So if your need is not the location, but the apartment, and you can't change the money, you got to change something. And that's generally location. Now you say it, and they either hear it or they don't. Just as I've been saying that we need to listen to them, we can't make them listen to us.
Yeah, and sometimes you need to have that conversation multiple times. And then sometimes they eventually get it, and sometimes they don't. And then, then it doesn't work out, right? And that's okay. But that's that is the best way, because you're not putting them down in any way, right? The whole point of an objection is never to confront them, right? It's to say, I completely understand what you're saying. Totally. And then here's where that's problematic without saying that, right? Which is exactly what Al just said. It's, I hear your problem, but I have another problem that is counterintuitive to that, right? And I'm trying to help you find a solution, right? So there are different levers that we can pull, right? Which ones will you allow me to pull? And sometimes they get it right away, which is awesome.
And sometimes they don't.
And sometimes they don't. And that's fine. And then you do exactly what Al said. Well, we'll keep looking, right? And I actually have a situation like that right now. Um, I have some clients that they're in a different country and they're trying to find a place before they arrive. And they have a very, very specific location and budget. The apartment, they just want a 1-bedroom. They don't want a studio. And they want to be near 72nd on the west side. And they don't care if it's a walk up, it could be a 5th floor, like whatever. But their budget is the problem, right? And they came to me after already looking for a month and not being able to get anything because they don't have credit, and the landlords or brokers that they've been trying to work with won't accept the third-party guarantor. So they already know that they have problems. And maybe they were thinking that I have a magic wand. I don't. Sadly, I wish I did. I would be Gandalf. And I tried to explain everything that, Al just said. Exactly, basically the same thing. And I'm just like, hey, why don't we look in this neighborhood? Or why don't we go a little bit further uptown? No, I really want to continue to look in this neighborhood. Okay, happy to keep looking for you, right? Just know that what I've showed you is what's out there that you can qualify for in your budget, right? If anything else comes up, I will send it to you. I will continue to try and send you other options to show you what else is out there, right? But you don't have to take me up on it. And that's literally currently what we're trying to do. Like, they're trying to move by March.
Well, it's
Is
funny.
there any-
Go on, Joe. Go.
I was going to say, is there any risk with that approach, though, that if you keep showing them things that they don't want, that they might do that again and go to another? I mean, they're going to find the same result, but.
Yes. So 2 things, because I was just going to say this is a perfect segue really into the follow-up. So there are 2 ways this can go. The one is we're going to keep looking, but I have a friend in the business who always says, well, I'll contact you when the right apartment comes. And it's not like, well, you're going to be homeless, but it is the same. It's like, at the end of the day,
it's a nice way of saying you're going to be homeless.
Yeah.
It's not, at the end of the day, all we have, anyone in this business has, is time. And it's time that you're investing that you're not being compensated for. So then you have to make that judgment call. This doesn't exist out there. So now am I going to be the person who's going to keep showing them that it doesn't exist? And then they do exactly what you say. They then realize that it still doesn't register that it doesn't exist. So they're like, well, I'm going to call somebody else and put them through the same hassle. Or do you like, hey, I'll call you when it comes up, and you just don't look anymore because it's not going to go anywhere. But then the follow-up is, hey, I'm checking in. Where do you currently stand? Because here's the thing. At some point, something's going to break. And I don't know what it is, but because it varies client by client, person who's looking from person who's looking. Are they going to raise the budget, lower their expectations, or go to or change their criteria? One of those 3 things is going to happen because they're not going to be homeless. So the question is, are you there when one of that happens? And that's why client follow-up is so very important. And, it's happened to any real estate professional who ever watches this call knows that this happens. So many times you get the phone call and they've been working with somebody else or 18 different people, and you're the one that successfully solves their problem because they changed something in their search. But many times you are the first broker. And we used to have a saying at the office we all used to work at, is like, never be the first broker, never be the first broker, because then you're the one who's just doing the educating. And then what you talked about, Joe, your question comes in, and that's, I'm going to call somebody else. And then when that person or that 18th person says the same thing you said to them, they finally relent and are willing to budge. And using the example we said, okay, I am willing to go up and look. And literally the difference between, 138 in Riverside it's like everything that the Upper West Side offers in a way, like geographically, the park's right there, the thing, and the apartments are 8 times the size of that tiny little apartment at
Mhm.
74th and Columbus. Like, you're getting exactly what you want. It's just a little further away, and the price is a fraction of it. So there's wins for everybody, and it's interesting, like pointing those kind of things out when you are trying to say, hey, maybe we can show you something, like what you can get for $4,000 in this neighborhood is so vastly different from what you get $4,000 in the West Village. Like, mm, it's shocking. Um, and so you're saving somebody a lot of money, and sometimes saving money is the thing that gets somebody to say, I'm open to looking at it. And as I said, if you say, come up and look at this, hey, I've got 1 or 2 apartments that I really want to show you in this other neighborhood, um, that I think meet all your needs. If they say yes, and then they still don't like it, because I've also done that where people say, I get it. I understand why you showed me that. I understand why you suggested it, but I am now willing to change my parameters. And I'm going back to because the location for them is the most important thing. And that is absolutely legitimate. Sometimes location is the thing. And somebody's going to, I'm willing to take no closets
Mhm.
and a walk up to be in the neighborhood I want to be. Great.
Yeah,
Now
and I
you've
think
learned.
yeah, I think also, like, with your concern, Joe, that they're gonna, you keep sending them things that are outside of their neighborhood, for example. Are they gonna just go to somebody else? Yes, right? But, like, if you don't send them that, you risk them going to someone else to get that apartment anyway, right? Um, because Al, you say it all the time. We don't necessarily lose deals because of us, right? We lose deals because they changed their parameters and they didn't tell us. So when we ask them, like when we follow up, hey, do you still need a place? Are you still looking? Where do you stand? Um, and they say, oh, I found a place. Oh, that's so great. I'm so happy for you. Do you mind sharing what place it was? I just want to, know what I missed, right? This helps me be a better broker, which Al taught me all of these tricks to say. Um, and and then they send you the address and it's like the different neighborhood, or it's more expensive, or it's one of the things that they were like adamant that they were not going to do. And you're like, well, I would have fucking showed you that had you just told me you were going to be open to it. So that's also like, that's why we also like continuously try to like stretch certain parameters, because otherwise we'll completely miss it. Right.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a guarantee that they're gonna take it or they're gonna go with us, but we're doing our job, and we'd be doing them a disservice if we didn't do that.
And that is also one of the reasons, like there's things you can't control. So if I'm telling somebody, they've given me all their parameters, and I am coming up with some options for them, and I have the ability to maybe send some stuff in advance. I will always do like, well, where can I poke it? Like little hints, trying to get myself some hints. So I will show them something that doesn't necessarily fit those parameters to gauge the reaction. Like, and it's not just, well, here's a one-off. It's like in this body of stuff, you only want to go up to 4,500, and you only want to stay below 86th Street. Well, I'm going to send you something in the 70s that's 4,900. And I'm also going to send you something that meets all your parameters, but is at 93rd Street. Like, so then they go like, oh, and now you can see like, well, I said this before, like you're poking like a doctor, like, does this hurt? Does this hurt? Does this hurt? Because generally speaking, when they make the phone call, there is leeway, but they don't start off telling you where that is. And it's up to you to do the discovery about, well, where can I? And if they come back with the hard, well, you included something on 93rd Street I don't understand. Okay, now you know that the location is more important. If they respond well to the 4,900. One, you know, there's leeway, and now you can send them more stuff in their neighborhood of that price. It's kind of, it's not, it's actually doing them a service
Mhm.
because you're getting more information that they didn't necessarily tell you. But
Yeah.
Rachel is right. You ask somebody if they rent with somebody else, where are you? And it, when they tell you, it's, you know, 1 out of 15 will be the apartment that you missed. But every other one is, they changed their parameters. They did. And you know, you were there to help them. So how do you prevent them from going elsewhere first?
The way you're describing the search for something that doesn't exist reminds me of the game. Is it Plinko with the 3 blocks that just keep building up and then you remove one every time? And that's like every time you show someone something that's outside their parameters and they just realize, and then eventually it all comes toppling down. And that's when, like you described, like eventually somebody's got to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
usually it's time, right? They've run out of time.
yeah.
They've run out of time and they're like, screw it, I need to change something. Um, yeah. Um, in terms of like follow up, um, which is super, super important, because I think the average realtor is actually bad at following up, which is insane to me. And I'm sure Al also thinks it's insane. But um like I don't know how many times, like even me as a broker reaching out to other brokers, they don't follow up. Like if I've said, "Hey, I want to show a property that you have to a client." Um and they'll be like, "Cool. When do you have availability?" or whatever. Maybe we end up doing the showing. They won't follow up and be like, "Oh, what does your client think? Oh, what about that?" Like they're not asking. They're just like, "Okay, it's done. I did my job." That's not your job. Your job is to follow up. Um and you follow up until they tell you to stop, right?
Until they
Like,
tell you they've signed a lease.
yep. Like Al
Yeah.
is the absolute best at this. Like when I first started and he was training me, we anytime we have a client that we're working together, he creates a group chat. And if they start, like if they just ghost after we've shown them and we've been interacting or whatever, he'll be like, "Hey, where do you stand with your rental needs?" A few days later, "Hey, did you find a place yet?" A few days later, like he continues.
You
Like
that's
it's
actually the line.
amazing.
It's funny.
It's
"Hey, where do
amazing.
you stand with your rental needs?" Like, that's the and here's the and a lot of times they don't even respond, and then 2 weeks later, they're like, "Hey," like, they you're all you're doing is reminding them that you exist.
Mhm.
And, you know, and then they'll say, you know, "Oh, we found a place." And it's like, "Oh, great." Because I actually was reaching out because I saw something that hit the market and I thought you'd be interested. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the interesting thing about both sales and rentals. Even though there's a cycle, you know, like things generally come on the market at the beginning of a month for, you know, the next month's moving. Um, every day, every hour is different. If somebody calls me right now and tells me what they want, and I'm going to look, and I'm going to come up with some ideas. But, you know, by the end of that day, other stuff has hit the market, which wasn't involved in the original conversation. So if you're not constantly in communication with a client, or if you're a client watching this, if you're not constantly in communication actively with your brokers, you are missing things that are hitting the market because
Mhm.
we're only talking about what's available right now. But in an hour, tomorrow, next week, all new stuff is constantly coming on, and you are missing that because you're so focused on what's in the past instead of what's coming up. So that feedback that they need to give you is great so that you're sitting there. I mean, as Rachel said, we'd be sitting there on the computer and all of a sudden, like a landlord puts out a new update with all these new things and you see, oh my God, this is that apartment for that client last week. Where do you stand with your rental needs? You know?
Mhm.
And they're like, we're still like, great. The perfect place is just hit. When are you free? When can you see it? And then they always go, well, why don't you tell me about it? Can you get me pictures? Can you send me stuff? It's like, I would love to do that. But do you know how many people are looking for this exact same thing? And if I go out to take those pictures and that video for you and then send it to you, and now you tell me you're available 2 days from now to see it, you've already lost a day. So it's gone by the time you actually want to see it. I mean, a lot of people just understand it's like you are there to help them, but the more they don't let you help, I'm saying there's too many double negatives. Like, they need to let you help them. And so a lot of times I say, okay, this is not the exact apartment, but it's an apartment in the building. So at least you get a sense of the proportions and the finishes. Trust me, because I've been doing this for 20 years. Here's like, this is the apartment. Come and see it. And you can even say it, like, I'm actually putting my reputation online with this. If you come and you don't like it, like, you never need to take another phone call from me. But believe that I'm trying to help you and I'm not asking. Again, another thing I was sort of, I'm not trying to waste your time, client, because wasting your time wastes mine.
It's my time.
Why am I going to take 2 hours to travel to another part of the city to show you an apartment that's not right for you? Like, that's 2 hours of my life. 2 hours that I could be working with somebody else who is serious about renting a place, and then I can actually make money and pay my bills. Like, I'm doing this because I hear you and I hear your needs. So come and meet me halfway. You invest a little time yourself. Um, and it's how do you make a client understand that? Well, you need to demonstrate from the initial phone call that you are in their corner.
Yeah. And throughout the entire relationship that you're in their corner. It's just continuing to reiterate and building on that trust. Okay, Joe, what questions do you have for us? 'Cause I know we only have like 10, 15 minutes left.
Let's see. So we covered objection management. We covered sales tactics in the beginning. I did want to ask about, and this is something I was thinking about last time, um, exclusive listings versus open listings and how to effectively approach an open listing and how to give yourself the best chance with it.
To the best chance to rent it?
And if it's even, in what cases is it worth taking on versus not? If you don't have an exclusive relationship or a relationship with the
Well,
property
you can't
manager.
advertise it. Most of it, like, unless the landlord has given you permission to advertise it, you're not going to be able to, even if they're offering a fee, because a lot of landlords now, since the Fair Act, when they send, um, when they send us their updates, even if there's, um, even if they're paying the fee, they will tell you this does not mean you can advertise and market for us.
Okay, so you're
Um,
basically just using it
so
as
the open listings are basically pocket listings. If the landlord isn't if the landlord or property management company isn't marketing it themselves and they don't have like one exclusive agent that's marketing it on StreetEasy, then it's a pocket listing and you can't advertise it. And you'll just have to hope you have a client that fits the need of that permit. That's just the nature of where we are post Fair Act.
But at the same, approaching it from a different angle, just simply in terms of inventory, any apartment that is available to rent is an apartment you should be thinking about offering your client.
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
Um, the only difference with an exclusive is that, well, then exclusive, you are the one that is helping to facilitate, and you always will be the one that is helping to facilitate that particular apartment.
Mhm.
But if somebody's coming to you and saying, "Hey, I need an apartment," there are people that's like, I want all the compensation. You shouldn't be thinking that way. You should, if this is an apartment that meets the needs of your client, you know, this is the apartment. Now, this is where it makes a difference. If you apply for an apartment for your client, if you're helping your client apply for an apartment, you may not be the only application. You don't know that because it's an open listing, right? So the landlord might be taking several applications at once, and you might have to do the unfortunate thing with your client saying, "We didn't get the apartment." And that's why that gets into how to make sure your application is foolproof and the strongest possible. But the other thing is, like, you want to offer them something. I mean, I even go to things where if there's an exclusive, I will call that broker and be like, "I have a client for this apartment." And it's shocking the number of times that I can tell, Rachel's talked about their father. I can tell that they don't want anything. They want that client to call them directly. And it's like, well, don't you actually want to rent the apartment? Like, I got somebody, I don't care that I'm splitting a commission with you or whatever under the fair, everything's structured so differently case by case now. But I, we all have a problem that is looking for a solution. I have a client looking for an apartment. You have a landlord that's trying to rent an apartment. Let's close both these files at once.
Mhm.
I had, going back to the conversation about, overcoming location. I had a client that was looking for a loft. Like, he wanted a loft and he had very particular neighborhoods he wanted a loft, but it was about the loft. And where he wanted it to be, there just weren't a lot of lofts. And I 100% was calling any loft that was available. Like, I have a client for this. I have a client. They were all, exclusive listings, but it was like, I have a client for this. And it was fascinating the number of times that people were willing to work and weren't willing. And
That was
the
just recently, right?
yeah, very recently. And the ones that were willing to work are successful. Like, the
Mhm.
same way I'm successful with that. The people who are like, I'm going to hold on to this until I get the phone call from a desperate person myself. They're not doing anybody any service, including themselves. But the irony of this is I then actually found the loft in a totally different neighborhood. And I was like, hey, client, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh my God, that's my dream apartment. And I'm like, okay, it's not in the neighborhood we talked about, but he's like, I don't care. It's my dream apartment. Like, never shut yourself off. And that's no matter what we're talking about, location or exclusive open, anything that is available to rent is something you should be considering renting.
I was gonna say, Joe, this kind of goes to slightly the conversation that we were having about brokers that represent exclusive listings that don't follow up. So they, I don't know how many times you can reach out, and sometimes they don't even respond, right?
It's shocking.
Like, that is their job, is to take every single lead, qualify it, or throw it out. But if you're not interacting with it, you've just lost a deal, right? You don't know how many deals you could have lost. Um, and now with, like, the Fair Act, right? Like, it's so simple. If you have an exclusive listing and a broker comes to you and say, "Hey, like, I have a client," this is the easiest way to solve the problem. Okay, cool, great. Bring your client. Is your client paying your fee? Right? They hired you, right? According to the law, that's how it works now. So, hey, are they paying your fee? And like, if not, then you have the conversation of like, okay, I need to rent this apartment, so I'll co-broke, right? And that I think is the most responsible reaction to such a situation, because you are being hired to rent an apartment. You are supposed to do everything that in your power. It is your fiduciary duty to do so, right? Um, and it's not about how much money you make. That's really
I
what it
would
is.
love, like, there have been times where I have been blocked from an apartment by somebody playing these games. And I've wanted to reach out, like, who's the landlord? And I want to let the landlord know. I have like this well-qualified client who sometimes, like, you send them pictures in advance being like, hey, what do you think of this? And they're like, I want to see that. And then, like, I can't do that anymore because I've learned, like, unless
They're not going to let you
the
in.
the exclusive broker is being cooperative, now I put myself in a situation where then the client thinks I can't get them in. And they're right. I can't get them in because somebody's actually gatekeeping. And that landlord, if that landlord found out, they would be so upset. I have a well-qualified person who would make a great tenant in your paying rent at the end of this week, starting to pay rent at the end of this week. Why is the person you hired to do that preventing people from seeing this? I mean, I'm sorry, like, if you're allowed, like, if every exclusive I have, I get a call from another broker, I'm like, when can they see it? Like, okay, first, do they qualify? Like, I ask the right questions. I also qualify their client to make sure that I'm doing right by my
Yeah, because you
landlords.
can't guarantee that they did their job either. You have to
Right.
qualify.
So you have to qualify. It's like, yes, oh, well, you didn't tell me about the dog. This is not a dog for, like, that you still make sure that they're qualified, but when can you see it? Because when I agreed to take on that exclusive, I agreed to rent that apartment to a qualified person as quickly as possible so that the rental income can go to that landlord as quickly as possible. And it's really shocking over the number of years, the times that there's somebody who's gatekeeping and you know why, and it's wrong. So by the way, if you're a landlord out there and you want your apartments rented, we will do it because we will get you the best candidates as quickly as possible and not try to play these games with other brokers.
100%. Yeah, just not. I mean, I think in general we're not game players. Whether we're working for a landlord or we're working for a renter, right? We are always straight shooters, and I think that's what makes us different at Pinpoint. Um, we are always doing what is the best for our client and being upfront and transparent with our client, no matter who our client is. Um, and
And
I
it is that
think
transparency that goes back to trust, right?
trust. I was
You
just
want a
about to get
landlord
it.
that trusts you. You want a landlord that trusts you. You want a renter that trusts you. You want a buyer that trusts you. You want a seller that trusts you. Um, and it all comes down to communication.
Yeah. All right. Do we have time for one more question, or do we have to wrap up?
We can do another question.
All right, Joe. What do you got?
Maybe this is more applicable for someone in my shoes that's just getting started, but maybe as far as networking, do you, and if so, how do you approach asking someone for referrals?
Oh, network like within your own social circle.
Yeah, or if you have a client that you did well for, you did well by, and you want to say, how do who do you know?
Cool. So, for in your own social circle, what I would suggest is like reach out to the people that you're very close with first. You're like, hey, just wanted to like, how are you doing? What's up? Like, what's new in your life? You ask them what's going on because then they're naturally going to then ask you, and you say, oh well, I really recently got my real estate license and I'm now a broker, and if you know anybody that's looking to move, like, let me know, right? That's how you get that conversation towards you. Um, and that can be with close people or people that you haven't talked to in about. Hey, I just want to catch up. How's it going? You have some time, you know? Um, and then um, for for clients, and this is something that I think I know I need to get better at, and I was talking to Josh about it, and he needs to get better at it too, is constantly being in communication with current and past clients about, you know, their needs and anybody they know. Hey, if you think I did a good job, like, is there anybody that you can refer me to? Happy we pay referral fees if that's an incentive um, to folks, and be like, hey, like the way that I build my business is through referrals. If you have anybody that you know that is thinking of moving, I would really appreciate it if you made an intro for me.
It's it's hard to find an apartment. We all know that. It's hard to find an apartment. It is harder to find a good, competent, decent broker. It just is. And people who've been in the game understand that. So if you've done well by a client, they generally are going to say something, but it always behooves you to help them down that path.
Yeah, and
I
like
mean,
remind them, like, oh hey, we haven't talked in a couple months. Do you have some time to, a few minutes to chat? Just want to check in, and then that's how you have that conversation.
and if they send, I generally send a follow-up email after everything's all said and done, and they picked up their keys and they moved in and they started unpacking. It's just the follow-up email being
Hmm.
like, it was such a pleasure. And by the way, 50% of my business is referrals. And I'd appreciate that. So here's a link to if you have a moment to write a review, that would be appreciated. And know that, I mean, as Rachel said, Pinpoint will pay a referral fee as a gesture of appreciation for sending us more business, because like anything, I mean, real estate, no matter where you are, a lot of it's word of mouth. This person helped me, they were good. If you're just, hopping on the internet, opening up a newspaper, does anybody do that anymore? But I mean, just picking somebody's name, that how do you know they're going to help
Yeah,
you?
everybody
Um,
works with somebody that they know, or they think they know, or they like. Um,
and
And
somebody with a proven track record
yeah,
of helping somebody. And so,
ideally,
you know,
sometimes people just work with their aunt because, you know. But one thing I want to say before we wrap up is, um, Joe, the way that we set up Fibry, which is our CRM, once you have a deal that closes, it'll automatically create a set of tasks for the entire next 12 months for you to follow up with your client. It's like, I have it scheduled so it's like a few days or a week after the lease start date, so you could check in how the move was. A month after their move to check in, like, hey, how's the first month? And then every quarter, I think it's like a check in, right? Those tasks are already automatically created the second you have a deal, right? Um, and ideally, anybody that you want to be reaching out to, you add them into the CRM and you can create those tasks, right? Um, and that way it's a way for you to remember to reach out to them, because otherwise you're just going to like remember once in a while. And then that's not as like, you need to make it a system, right? Um, or you could just be like Josh and just like scroll through your text messages and see who you haven't talked to in a while,
you
which
know them.
doesn't work very well. All right. On
But
that
hey, if
note,
you're walking down the street and you run into those clients, you always be like, you know, listen, because listen, it's New York, right? We
yeah,
run
you
into
do
people
run
on
into
the street.
people. Yep.
And sometimes you're showing an apartment in a building and you know you've put people in that building, you run into them in the lobby and you're like, you know, and they're like, oh, you're showing apartments here. Yes, I'm still showing apartments. By the way, how do you like your place? Yeah, great. And you know, if you have any friends, like constantly reminding
Mm-hmm.
them of that.
Yep.
Because it's also, you know, it's New York. It's also, we're humans, you know, out of sight, out of mind. So
Mm-hmm.
it is just putting yourself out there the way we have to do no matter what industry we're talking about.
Yep. All right. On that note, we'll close this up.
All
Thank you
right.
guys.
Rachel, Joe, till next time.
Yeah.
Yes, great.
Um, and for anyone that's listening, you can find us, Pinpoint, at our website, pinpoint.nyc. You can find me, Rachel Fiegler, on LinkedIn. You can find Pinpoint Group on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I think we're on TikTok now. I'm not really sure. But yeah. Uh,
We
thanks
are there to
for
help you.
yeah. Thanks for joining, guys, and see you next time.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.